For this bit of practice, I want you to choose any hook and any yarn that you're comfortable with using and that you can use to achieve the plaid stitch with the colors that you have. I want you to work a chain of 25, then work a row of single crochet back across that chain. Then we have a foundation that we can practice with. So continuing with my dark, now I've chosen a dark charcoal, a white, and a mid-gray for this plaid stitch practice. So we're going to turn our piece, and this will just be simply practicing the technique of changing colors and carrying yarn. So you're going to begin by chaining 2. You're going to double crochet into the same stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, and then begin the double crochet in the next stitch. So you can see that I still have my 2 loops on there. And the way that you're going to join the next color is you're going to leave those 2 loops on your hook. You're going to get your mid color next, and you're going to simply pull it through. And the reason we do that is because the stitch, the 2 loops on top of the stitch, are the loop that you have on your hook when you are about to make the next stitch. So for it to line up, you need to change color before you work the stitch, and then the entire stitch will appear to be the same color. Now, when we join that second color, this is when carrying comes in. So you're going to lay this yarn right on top, and I even like to let it run across the back, and that way it doesn't poke through as much, which can sometimes be a problem. So I'm going to lay it in the back like that, and then I'm going to work my double crochet. I'm going to go under the 2 loops, and I'm also going to go under that thread that I'm carrying. Many people may look at plaid and think, oh my goodness, that's too many ends. No, thank you. But we actually will not be having any extra ends other than the 3 ends of the color you're starting, the yarns you're starting with, because you're working over the ends and you're changing color. You're not cutting and weaving in ends. So I'm carrying that yarn, and you continue carrying it as you work. So this is my second double crochet, my third double crochet, and then I'm going to drop this yarn, pick up my dark, and finish the stitch with the next color. So you can see this technique allows the colors to line up exactly with the stitch, and the 3 double crochets will give you that square of the plaid. So you'll alternate the dark and the mid all the way across your practice piece. And again, when you are working the next color, you're carrying the previous color. And sometimes when you're working, perhaps you have thicker yarn or perhaps you have a bigger hook. When you're working, you want to just, it kind of will loosen up on its own. You want to just barely tug that just tiny bit. Sometimes it will get caught and it will have loops here on the back. You don't want it so tight that your fabric loses elasticity, but you do want to pull it to make sure that there's no loops or little bits of yarn hanging out. You want it to just be very smooth on the inside. So I'm dropping my dark, I'm pulling up my mid, and I'm working over that tail. Right now it doesn't matter so much because it does blend in with the foundation chain that I'm working on. But when you get into your project, you'll find that you may see that, especially when working with white and we're carrying a darker color. It does help to kind of lay it behind, not in front. In front is where you would see it. And this, of course, only applies when you're working in the round, you're not turning. So there's my third, and it's a little bit loose. I'm going to just gently tug that and then join the next color. And I'm going to work this all the way across. And then we'll be able to see how the colors work together. So I'm gently tugging, switching back. See in there? You're probably going to do this a lot as you're working, is I went on autopilot for a minute and finished that last stitch. All you simply need to do is pull out the last loop and remember to finish it with the next color that you intend to use. And it does help to keep slack, a little bit of slack on your yarn. Gently tug. So you see we're getting the first row of our buffalo plaid. Okay, so now we've completed the first row. So the way that the plaid stitch works is the mid will always be diagonal and the dark and the light will always be diagonal. So it looks as if strips of fabric are crossing, changing the color where they touch. So we're going to turn here. And because this is my dark, I'm not going to start with my dark. My dark will only go every other row. So now we're going to turn. I am leaving out just a few items because I want to make sure that you're getting the basics before we move on to different techniques. So the mid, which is this lighter gray, is going to be used every row, but the dark and the light will alternate rows when you're working the 3 double crochet, one color on each row. So since we worked the dark on the first row, I'm going to drop the dark and I'm going to join the white. And an easy way to do that is simply pull a loop through, pull that loop down, and the loop disappears. So I'm going to chain 2. And you got to make sure that you remember to get your, even though I'm not using the mid just yet, I do need to immediately be carrying it so that I have it when I need it 3 stitches in. So I've worked 2, I'm going to work 1 more. Tug it just very gently to make sure I don't have any loops poking through. And then start the gray. And it may not look like much, just a couple rows in. You can kind of tell how it looks like the 2 colors, 2 strips of color are mixing to create that really nice buffalo check pattern. So this is the basics of plaid. You're going to work the mids are diagonal and the darks are diagonal. And for this plaid stitch you do 3 double crochet, change color, 3 double crochet, and you can see that the 3 double crochet make a nice square. Okay, so stay tuned. I'm going to give you a really neat tip on how to keep your yarns from tangling, which, as you can see, can end up being quite a problem. So watch the next video.